Greetings to you all. Greetings and welcome to the People's Movement Show. I'm so overjoyed that we have the opportunity to meet as often as we do with the courage, with the passion, with the strength to have an engagement regarding matters that concern us here in Guyana. If you do not mind, please inform us whether you can see and you can also hear clearly. I'm not in my studio. Once done, I shall return to broadcasting from there. But while we're here, in my makeshift environment, please let me know whether you can see and you can hear clearly. This broadcast this evening is hopefully going to be very informative, provocative, and also one that encourages you to some degree to have a voice or lend a voice to matters relating to us here in Guyana, South America. To those of you who reside overseas in what is called the diaspora, I greet you and I thank you for tuning in as well, because I know that many of you would normally join us here. Thank you for the feedback, Carla. I appreciate that. The People's Movement happens to be a group of individuals that spread across the world. And this group understands that their role in Guyana's society and Guyana's political and other affairs must be one of deliberate and purposeful involvement. We are not a group of people who are led by any political group or political party. We are free to think. Thank you, Dwayne, in Region 8. We are free to think. We are called independent thinkers. The People's Movement targets those, or we are united in reference to independence of thought. We are not controlled by political agendas, political ideologies of any party. We're not controlled by commitment to Burnham or to Chetty or to Barrett or Granger or any one of that. Any one of them. We are committed to being independent thinkers with the ability to reason, to rationalize, to make conclusions that are sound, to be informed. We are committed to being educated and educating each other. So that is the benefit of being involved in this movement. We are strong enough to stand. Region 1 is here as well. Excellent, thank you. We are strong enough to stand resolutely that every official in this country, would have been whether elected or selected. And by the way, most of the people you see before you who strut around in offices in this country in what are called political or constitutional circles, they are selected. They're not elected. They're not elected on an individual basis. They are part of a list, and you choose generally who you would like, which party. Then the head of that list determines who goes to parliament. That's how Guyana functions. So I call them selected officials. That's what we call them here in the People's Movement. Sure. The regional executives, like the chairman, the executive officer, they are selected to function. They're not elected. Mayors across this country are not elected by the population in the communities. They are selected. There's a caucus that will be held internally after local government elections are had. And at the internal meeting, the councillors choose the mayor. You do not choose your mayors. So I call all of these people selected officials, and some of them are elected officials. And we at the People's Movement have understood that it's our right to hold them accountable. They must be able to give account for what they do with our finances, what they do with our time, what they do with other resources in our country. We have the right to question them, because they understand that with the power of collective thinking, with the power of independent thinking, they are unable to sway us and lead us by, as they say in Guyanese terminology, by our nostrils or by your nose. So I welcome you this evening. I would be joined by my brother Jenna and possibly Sister Sancha, and in the future, shortly there, I would like to think, therein, you would have other faces, new faces coming to you here on the People's Movement Show. We also have a Facebook page that is called the People's Movement. Please be willing, please be kind enough to like that page and follow it, so that when we transition into that uh, that environment, you are able to you are able to follow us in reference to our broadcast. So we have Region 8, Region 3, Region 1, of course, Region 4, Region 10. So you're seeing here people from across the country are joining us, and this is so significant. There's a reach. And I would like to say to you that if you are interested in being a part of this movement, all you have to do is change how you think, or think the way we think, which is we are not bowing to anybody, and no politician controls us. Nobody can call some main office somewhere and say that we should not be allowed to think. So if you're a free thinker or an independent thinker, welcome. Permit me, please, to bring to you this evening, joining us for a very intense discussion. What are we discussing this evening? We are going to be speaking to this matter, among others, especially with the British High Commissioner. And I'll invite Brother Junior shortly so I can show you what we're talking about this evening, one of the matters. Because it is disturbing to me, to say the least. This British High Commissioner, Jane Miller, she's seen as an ambassador, who said the United Kingdom, the news report from, I think this is the Waves Online, said that Guyana's voters list was being updated and could be used to hold general elections with sufficient safeguards in place. And she said, based on existing rules, Guyanese who are overseas could not be taken off the national database of registrants. Quoting what she said, anywhere in the world, you got to make sure your voters list is regularly updated. That is correct. And that's what's happening here. So always the people who have died and people who have moved out the country or whatever, you need to make sure it's regularly updated. And that's the most important thing. United Kingdom High Commission to Guyana, Jane Miller, told them Waves Online. So I want you to see that, and I will now have Brother Jenny here with us. There he is, on screen. Welcome to, well, not welcome, you're here with me all the time. But good to see you, my brother. We have a matter on the table this evening, one of which I have quite a bit of peeve with, but I allow you to speak. You can unmute your microphone, greet the viewers, and let's begin our discussion. We have 52 minutes remaining. So let's make the most of this. Go ahead.
Well, I should say salam, shalom, and namaste to all of you, wherever you may be listening. Well, I'm here back in Guyana, so I'm on time with most of you in America, in the American continent. Some states of the United States are perhaps behind our time or in front of us. Um, isn't the comment made by the British High Commissioner an intrusion into our affairs? It's a new form of colonialism. That's how we have to see it. It's a new form of colonialism. We don't have the British or the American presence in terms of them governing us on a day-to-day basis, but their presence and their influence is felt in this country as if they have still want to colonize us or still want to direct us what we should do or what we shouldn't do. And that's a very serious problem. I've written something today and I'm asked the question. I got no reply from anyone on Facebook, which is this: do you think our ambassador or high commissioner in London could tell the British government, that they should call an election in the United Kingdom? Does anybody think so? I just come back from London. I follow what's going on intensely. And the British government, which this woman represents, is at the point of break or make. And what they should have done, they should call an election immediately. I draw this parallel because we're dealing here with somebody who represents the British government. So we must understand who is this person and what does she represent. And what she represents the conservative government that you had within less than 6 months, you had three prime ministers in office that were not elected by the people of the United Kingdom. And this woman has the audacity, where there is no democracy in that country, because by democracy we mean having free and fair elections. And they didn't have free and fair elections. The Johnson, the prime minister, resigned over a scandal which I won't go into at this moment. And immediately after he resigned, the Conservative Party met, and they have a committee called the 1922 Committee, and they met and they voted 120,000 people in the United Kingdom voted for a new prime minister, which was Liz Truss. And then she was forced to resign. And now you have this Indian guy, Rishi Sunak. He was appointed, not elected. You have to make a distinction in these things, because the Europeans and the Americans and the ruling class in America tend to confuse us about what democracy really is. Democracy is the right of the individual of every country to to have the opportunity to elect a government of their choice. Many times we make the mistakes of electing the wrong people, as happened in Guyana over and over again and still happening. That we go to the polls. Now we have a huge controversy now we're dealing with at this moment about the whether the list that we are supposed to go to the polls to the local government elections, whether that list is valid and whether it has the names of people who should not have been there. So that's the issue. That's what we're discussing today. And more importantly, that the ambassador, the High Commission to Guyana from the United Kingdom is saying to us that we must go ahead. As far as she's concerned, the list is clean. That we must go ahead and we must participate in the local government elections.
And let me just chime in there, Brother Jenna, because you asked the question, and I'm happy that we normally have synchrony in how we think. You asked whether our High Commissioner to England, to the UK, can do that. If you have any ambassador, even Sam Hines in the US, whether he has the power to even give commentary that is in any way against the grain, if at all, on their electoral processes. Remember, the Vienna Convention of Treaties, Article 41, I think it is, prohibits this behavior. It doesn't allow any diplomat, because that treaty governs how diplomats will function in various postings in various countries. The Vienna Convention of Treaties is an international convention to which Ghana is a signatory. Irfan Ali knows this. Orbin Norton knows this. Of course, Barjagio knows this. Even Granger knows it. So with all of these politicians, as we call them, around us, there we have here again a British High Commissioner, a diplomat who's sent here. She's here at the behest of the president of this country. She is mingling and meddling in our affairs, to the point whereby she's saying that, in her view, the list can be used for general elections. She didn't even say regional, local government alone. Permit me, please, but just for the sake of those who are viewing here, because I want to bring this point home as you've touched on some very, very salient matters. I have the article before me. She said that the official list can be used to hold general elections. Now, The Carter Center said that the list is an issue. The OAS said that the list may very well be an issue. There have been many recommendations for this list, the official list of electors, to be corrected because there are about 660,000 or 80,000 people on this list, which means that we have got just a very small population of children here. And we know that's not the case. This woman has the nerve to say that we could use this said list to hold general elections when she knows that the list is a matter of concern. So I'm happy that you spoke to the fact that we, our ambassadors and our high commissioners, cannot even risk this. With all of the chaos that occurred in the UK and still is occurring, we have not heard a word from a high commissioner from there because he can't talk. They can't say anything in these people's business. When Boris Johnson was going through hell and he had to resign at the end of it all, what did our high commissioner say? Even Irfan Ali couldn't talk. And this woman, yet again, and I'll read for you, Brother Jonas and others, further to what she said, that she's getting reports, my brother and Guyanese, she is getting reports, she's confessed to this in this report here, about the state of affairs regarding our electoral processes. We are not independent. That's the point I want to get to here. Guyana is not an independent nation based on what she has said. So you can pick up from there, Brother Jenna, but I want to really drive home that point and reignite the fire in Guyanese to understand that a high commissioner, an ambassador, has no business telling you that your list can be used for election because she doesn't work with GCOM. She's not Claudette Singh. She's not Vishnu or whatever his name is, Prasad, the new CEO. She's not a commissioner at GCOM. So how can she make such a deliberation?
Well, she's making those statements, as I said earlier, because um, they still believe that Britain rules the world. And for those Guyanese who are listening here, I think most of you know that Britain doesn't rule the waves anymore. In fact, Britain is in the deepest crisis that it has ever seen in the last 100 years. Imagine that. So they are in serious economic crisis. If you want to follow what's going on a minute to minute basis, just get that radio station LBC and you will hear 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, what is going on in the United Kingdom because they interview ministers and they interview parliamentarians and they interview opposition leaders and the people. They have a what is called the phone-in program, so you get a full view of what's happening in the country. And there is a major crisis. In fact, what is happening now, and it's important for Guyanese to know this, because why is this woman interfering in our affairs when in the United Kingdom you have such a major crisis where people are having to resort to food bank? That's what it is. It's not what me reading. I was there. I only came back last week. So there's a major economic and social financial crisis in the United Kingdom. And this woman is talking here about Guyana. She has violated all the rules of protocol and diplomatic niceties. That's what she has done. And I am very surprised that Aubrey Norton, the leader of the opposition, or the AFC leader, uh, um, what's his name, is afraid, has not issued a statement. Look how long this woman said that. And I replied immediately to her on my Facebook. If you look at it, check my Facebook, you will see it. And I said that she has absolutely no right to be interfering in the internal affairs of our country. Look, we here don't know whether the elections in Guyana, the 2020 elections, was rigged or not. We don't know that. We were relying on the courts and the petition to verify the evidence that people were making allegations that the elections were rigged. Okay? But it was the British, the Americans, the Europeans, and the OAS and the United States of America that intervened directly. It was an aggression to remove the last government. The last government, the Granger government, even though I have my own personal criticism of the way he managed the economy and how he run the country, I still believe that he was elected in 2020, in 2015, Democrat, and these same people that have now criticizing the last election and, and imposed this government upon us, this administration upon us, they were the ones who actually said that the 2015 elections were free and fair. And yet, they conspired with Jagdeo and the US administration and others to get rid of the Granger administration through the form of a vote of no confidence. You understand? So, had it not been for the collaboration, and we need to see the bigger picture, and you need to see why these people are intervening in our situation, because they still want to control our natural resources. Imagine ExxonMobil is stealing our oil. And I mean, to some credit to Mr. Granger, the reasons why they got after him was because he made some terrible mistakes in signing a very bad contract. And he was trying to correct it under pressure. They felt that he was weak and that he would have given in, and therefore they had to get rid of him. So there was a conspiracy. That's why Granger, if you remember, he was so scared that he didn't, I think he still has cancer, but he thinks he has cured it. He did not go to United States of America for medical treatment. Where did he go? He
He
went to
went to Cuba.
he went to Cuba. And that annoyed them more that he went to Cuba, because Cuba is a sworn enemy of the United States. The United States elite made Cuba an enemy. Cuba didn't want to make an enemy of
Right.
anybody. And these are the realities, and this is what we as Guyanese face, that we don't have control. Guyana is supposed to be, according to, 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 to world figures, Guyana is supposed to be the fifth largest oil producing country in the world.
Yes.
And what this administration is doing is using our funds to actually give to their friends and family, using that fund to dish it out to their friends and family, and to bribe a section of the population that they feel are opposition supporters, and to keep them quiet. And it's so stupid that when they go into these areas which are called traditional opposition areas, people uh, people clamor for them because they give them some money and they bribe them, and so they don't say anything. They're not allowed to say anything in any case.
That, that's so true. Because what we see here, and as I promised, I would have the viewers here. I'll read um, what she actually said. She said that, and this one, there are ways. From all, or from what I've been told, I quote what she's saying. From what I have been told, that's what she's saying here, which means somebody tell her something. Yes, I am satisfied. What was the question? The British envoy was said, the real test is on the day of voting, where there is the voters list with electors providing authentic identification. From what I've been told, yes, I'm satisfied. I think the mechanisms are there, she said. Asked whether she thought Ghana needed a brand new registration, she said she would be guided by what she has been told. But from what I've heard, I think the list is good enough. And I think we just need to make sure that there are mechanisms in place to make sure it is regularly updated. So she is saying that she's getting report from somebody. And based on what she's told, the list is fine. The question that'll be burning would be who? is telling her that this list is fine. Somebody's be telling her something. We must pay attention to these things as Guyanese, because here you have an outside influence. You have got an external influence. You've got a high commissioner who's labeled an ambassador nonetheless, speaking directly to an issue that is so uh, hot and
Important.
charged, highly debatable and contestable, that we have got a bloated list of electors. It is known. And this woman is saying that based on what she is told, the list is fine. All we have to do is have persons with ID cards, essentially, and they can only vote once because it's properly identified. This is certainly almost catastrophic. When this happens, and Ali, for example, he wouldn't touch her because she's working according to what Jagger wants here, apparently. And that's my view. Norton hasn't hollered yet again that she has to leave. So somebody is doing something great here. But I want to go deep in this, my brother. The High Commissioner Miller said, listen to this, viewers. She understood that the United States, Canada, and the European Union all want to see that the voters list is properly updated and that there are mechanisms in place under their voting to make sure that people are turning up only once and they have identified that they're on the list. So she mentioned the US, she mentioned Canada, she mentioned the EU and what they want. This is our business. And you have got this High Commissioner Miller telling us. Now, I want to conflate two matters here that some of you may say are not related, but I see a relationship in them. Remember, only recently, she said, okay, big announcement. Guyanese are free to go to the UK, visa free, as of the 9th of November. The 12th of November, she says, listen, the list is ready, it's fine for elections. You don't have to touch it because we're okay with it. People may not see the relationship here. People may not see what's afoot here because these people are calling all of the shots. No reparation here. They're not talking about giving us any money for what Africans and Hebrews have suffered at the hands of slavery, even what the indentured servants have suffered, however, but the Africans have suffered tremendously along with Hebrews among them. No, she said, okay, you're free to come to the UK because, of course, it's going to open many doors. And Ali announced it with joy, not recognizing that the UK, as a matter of fact, is in economic crisis. Secondly, she said, without reservation, in the same conversation, that there will be direct flights to Guyana. Direct flights, with British Airways, of course, coming here. So who benefits from these direct flights? And now she's saying that she has got the power to talk about the Canada, the UK, and the European Union all accepting that the list is fine. So what happened to us as Guyanese? Do we have a say?
And
You go ahead, brother.
you know why she's saying that? She's saying that, as I said earlier, because she thinks, she dreams that Britain, Guyana is still a colony of the United Kingdom.
That's the point I
That's
want to
the
bring
point.
across
That's
right
the
now.
point.
That's
And
the point.
and to emphasize it more, you see these two monarchs, Ali and Aubrey Norton, came out when their queen died. They came out and they asked for days of official mourning. So, what is the difference between the colonial minded Ali and the colonial minded Aubrey Norton? What is the difference between the PNC and the PPP? I've asked that question on Sharma yesterday. What is the difference? Hamilton Green couldn't answer it. All right? Because there is no fundamental difference now with the leadership of these two political parties. There's no, there is no difference because they both support a neo-colonial, and I need to explain what this neo-colonial
Yes,
uh,
go ahead.
view is, because I mean these are terminology that are thrown about. Because basically, what it is a new form of the British, the Americans, and the Europeans trying to influence and direct our country where they want it to go. That's basically what it is.
Yes.
Because if Ali, and this scientist, political scientist Aubrey Norton, who is to lecture at University of Guyana, does not understand and know that it was the British monarchy that ruled over the empire, that enslaved more millions of Africans, that they brought to this part of the world for nearly 250 years. 250 years. And for those, I heard a man yesterday, an Indian guy he has to be, saying, comparing the enslavement of or African brothers and sisters to that of indentureship. I mean, what's nonsense? That guy says that he's writing a book on reparation. I mean, what level of ignorance to the height of stupidity, I would say, for a guy to make those kind. You cannot compare under no
No.
circumstances the deprivation, the Holocaust that was caused by the British and the Europeans against people of African descent who were brought here, not voluntarily. Like the Indians were came here. Yes, the Indians were fooled. My grandfather came and he was bound to Wakanam. He was at the age of 18. So I have living memory of my grandfather. Okay, because he may have been one of the last set of immigrants who came from India. And they were not treated like the African. They just they lived in the lodges. And there's no evidence that they were maltreated to such an extent. They worked them hard. But at the end of 5 years, they were allowed to actually stay here, get a piece of land, or go back to India. Now, we need to understand our history, and that is the problem we're having. This country does not have racism. People are not discriminating against people. You know who discriminates against people? Is those who come into office, use the machinery of power, the instrument of power to discriminate racially and politically against and gender wise against our people. And we need to put an end to this nonsense.
We must. And permit me to, if you can, this person, Stephen King, is making a comment here, Brother Jenner. As far as I know, and he's a PPP apologist, so look at his comment. As far as I know, everyone that showed up to vote, he's been in general elections 2020, had to have identification, and each polling place had party officials from all political stakeholders present, which is not true. For any widespread fraud to happen, these people either had to be asleep, all asleep, or grossly incompetent. Now, this is the kind of irresponsible and weak statements we see here every so often, and I doubt I can educate Stephen King if that's his ideas.
Stephen is not a
So go ahead.
PPP. He's an objective, but he's misled. That's the problem.
So, but look at the comment, because he apologizes. I see him as an apologist for the PPP based on how he speaks.
Well, the
Now,
problem we have,
now,
brother, is a lot of these people don't live in the country, so they don't suffer what is called nostalgia. They
correct.
want to come back to Guyana, but they don't want to make that. They tremble when they want us to prepare that path for them to come down and hang their hats. They do not want to come here and make the sacrifice and to say the things we are saying because they're afraid
They're
of
afraid.
what I don't know.
But
What
I
are they?
want to exactly. But let me just for the, because we talk about elections here. Stephen King, for one, at the Arthur Convention Center, although the recount process was entirely illegal in its nature, it's unconstitutional. There were what we call observation reports, Stephen King. Now, if there are observation reports on a matter, as is agreed by the PPCV commissioners and APNUFC commissioners, then, or to PNC commissioners, because AFC doesn't have them, sir, obviously, based on those reports, there are records to prove that statutory documents were missing, that there are people who went to vote and there is no affidavit of identity, which means you don't have to have an identification card to vote. So you're ignorant of a basic electoral process here. If I don't have an ID card or any form of identification, somebody can recognize me and they have to swear that this is me. So don't say that you have to have an ID because you are ignorant of the basic tenets of election processes. But you're commenting, and that's what I have an issue with. So someone
What about
could,
the
and that's what
actual?
happened. There's no record in many ballot boxes that anyone swore for anybody. So in 40 plus ballot boxes in this country, you have ballots cast and you don't know in some instances who they are or if it's one person did it 10 times or 50 times. You don't know because the statutory documents are missing, which is what the problem is. Because of such discrepancies, we said, let it go to the court, bring the evidence. And which political party said, Mr. King, no, no, we don't want to go to court. We don't want any petition to be heard. You can name the party for me, please, Mr. King.
It's very funny that you're saying that because if you are accused of a crime and you know you're not guilty, why are you afraid to be tried or to be heard? Why? And the people who are protesting against vehemently against having a hearing for these petitions is Anil Nandalal. Let us call his name so that the people and young people know who is sincere about the democratic process. Part of the democratic process is the right under the Constitution for you to be heard, even as one person, and I know Mr. Nazir, who single-handedly, as his political party, when he stood some years ago, 10 years ago or more, he filed a petition
Yes,
single-handedly to the court, the High Court, and was heard. I don't know what really happened in the matter, but the fact of the matter is that under our constitution, the laws provide for anyone who participate and not participate in the elections to challenge the validity of that election and to challenge the court of law. There is a special court of law, and we have a situation here where the chief justice, the acting chief justice, threw out the matter because Granger didn't sign the thing in time. Now, what she has done there is to rule judiciously against the wishes of the guy of all the Guyanese people because they all Guyanese want to know whether the elections. It doesn't matter which side you're on. They wanted
right,
to know whether the elections were rigged by producing evidence. If I say that you, Mr. Brother London, if I say you're a thief, you can sue me if I can't give you the evidence.
correct.
It's a law.
Exactly so.
If I don't produce the evidence and I say that you're a thief, even on this program, and I can't produce the evidence, I could be sued. I could be liable for defamation of character. That's what the law says. You don't have to invent these things. And Mr. Nandalal, who carried away books owned by the people of this country and persistently in the courts of Guyana, asks that the matter be thrown out. And the highest court in this land said, no,
No,
there is enough prima facie evidence that you must face trial. Let's understand what is going on in this country. You have a lot of rascality going on among these politicians, and they use our money to manipulate the process. And then you have on top of that the ex-colonialist masters who are coming here and telling us what to do. And a lot of our people have a colonial mind. Don't doubt me, they have a colonial mind because 250 years of these type of attitude and behavior and drumming these things into our air forms a culture, a tradition that is very difficult to get out of our people's mind.
yes,
So
and
the
before
woman knows, brother, the woman knows her influence in this society. All right, she knows.
She does, because you're making reference to neocolonialism, and of course we segue a little bit, but it's important for viewers to understand what that speaks to. Uh, when we have, and Virginia define it to aptly for you or explain it, when you've got persons who are not Guyanese exercising in their official capacity, which would be diplomatic capacity here, such powers over your entire electoral process, they're saying that what they accept is right. She said that the US, Canada, and the European Union all say the list is fine. So if Orby Norton, for example, says he doesn't agree with the list, or APNU AFC says that this and the list is bloated, they're saying once Canada, the US, the UK, and the European Union say it's fine, it's fine. Which is why in 2020, you had the issue. That was the problem. Because Sarah Ann Lynch, Lillian Chatterjee, Gregory Quinn, and the one from the European Union, Eduardo, I think his name is, they could just walk in and make decisions and make demands. And what is most painful to me is that Granger, because apparently doesn't want to look terrible on the international scene, or he knows the consequences of his action, did not render any one of them persona non grata, meaning you're not welcome here anymore, you're not a person, out. He couldn't do that. So we are still here to deal with the repercussions of Granger being a weak leader and not wanting to deal with these people, and now secondly, Ali benefiting from apparently the things she's saying, and Norton not having the political strength, as far as I can see it, to respond and cause a response to be had for this woman to leave, because she is seeking, based on her influence, to give the impression that the list is fine. So nobody should complain about this list. None. And that in itself is catastrophic. So what is afoot? What does Ghana have to offer that would cause these neo-colonialists, people who want to rule your country in a new way, but they say colonizers? What do we have? Exxon just announced yet again, I think it was last month, 2 other oil finds. And Jagdio is dancing with words all the time. He's a good ballerina. He's not telling you all and telling us straight up that there is no new contractual agreement. What he suggests is that in the future there would be new agreements made. So as is, whenever Exxon finds anything new, the arrangement still stands. Let's not forget that. And they have announced yet again that they found even more oil. So with each passing moment, the potential lies for Ghana to be upgraded on the scale as to what level of oil producing nation we are. Can you understand, people, I think that many of you do on this broadcast, that Guyana is based on our population size. We are extremely potentially wealthy. And if there's one thing Sarah Ann Lynch decided to say before she left, is that there is a problem though. Because with all of this oil find and all of this money being thrown around in reference to the National Resource Fund, she said it is not being spread across the nation based on what she's seeing. Have we not told you repeatedly on the People's Movement show that PNC, APNEFC, PPP, none of these people would ever empower Guyanese financially? They would not do it. They'll give you handouts here and there because they know that if you are independent of them economically, they become useless to you. And they would not do it in any shape or form. I can promise you that. PNC wouldn't do it, neither did PPP do it. Because they both function by you have to call the minister, and the minister is now the big boy to say, oh, then hold on. Tell this person to do what I say. Or tell the one to give Jenna the land he wants. Or tell that one. That's how Guyana functions. We have to therefore focus as Guyanese people to make a determined effort that we want to see things be different in our country. And we have to stop the power of these neo-colonialists from stepping their feet into our nation. We have to make an example of them, and somebody has to be strong enough to say, we are not taking your influence any longer. Stay out of our business. But I could tell you what, the Cell report spoke to the fact that the opposition AFC was trying to get the EU, Canada, and Britain to accept that the list has a problem and to help them to cause the reform. You get the point, people? Norton and the PNC and AFC are reaching their hand out to the same people who put out Granger and them to say, help us to go against the PP Civic. Do you recognize the kind of weak leaders you have in this country where they can't stand for themselves and cause their supporters to act? Go ahead, my brother. Go right ahead.
Well, I've said many times, Aubrey Norton wasting time running around behind these people, thinking that they will consider him. That is why he has said absolutely nothing about the renegotiation of the oil contract. He has never been on any demonstration, and he makes all kinds of silly excuses why he is not on the street when there were so many protests. But here what the positive side is. The positive side is that more than 95% of Guyanese want the oil contracts to be renegotiated.
Yes.
And come the next election, the Guyanese who come forward and put their names and say, we are standing on the platform to renegotiate the oil contract, they will win at the next election. Because we can prove beyond the shadow of doubt that the PNC, the AFC, who is guiltier, because it was the AFC man, Trotman,
Trotman.
who signed the contract. And you know, he's very ill, he can't even talk. Sorry
I've
for the
heard.
guy. Yes, very ill. I don't know if his sin or whatever you may say as a religious guy is that he's reaping that benefit because he is guilty of suffering thousands, hundreds of thousands of our people and allowing these people to exploit us to the extent as if we're going back to the times of slavery. Because what are we? We don't have no control over our resources, and those people who we elect to guard our resources, they're giving it away. What are we supposed to do? Look, this lady said that the list is Guyana has 700,000 people. The voters list has 600,000.
680,660, somewhere around there.
Right.
Yeah.
So doesn't that tell you something that if the country has 700,000 people, including young people who can't vote, I mean, what is the voting population? The voting population can't be more than 250 to 300,000, is it? It
They
can't be
claim
more than that.
400 plus thousand.
Yes, it can't be more than that. So where is the rest coming from? I read a report the other day that in the world, Guyana has the highest number of people in the diaspora.
Correct. 1 point something million Guyanese live overseas.
Could you believe that?
Yeah.
And they left this country as a result of these two political parties. People leaving every single day. If it was that good, why would they want to leave? Let me come back to this question about the UK visa, non-visa. My daughter works in the health service, so I know. We talk all the time. I used to drop her to work. There are 150,000 health personnel that have left the NHS, the National Health Service. 150,000 British personnel. And they open the door so that Guyanese can go there because they have this slave mentality, thinking that they're going to the motherland. And when they arrive there, then they will realize that it's not a motherland for them. Because when they arrive, those who have the credentials to be nurses, they will shuffle them to these hospitals, and they're not going to get no important position because they don't have the qualifications.
Ah,
They, they don't have the qualification. The nurses who are going there will be doing slave work. All right, they are the ones who are going to be the foot soldiers of these the British health system. So that is why they given them, and everybody's laughing. Even my Irfan Ali, he doesn't understand. This guy is such a comic. He does not understand that the British are encouraging our Guyanese hard-working nurses to go to the United Kingdom. So what's happened into Guyana? What is going to happen to our health system? Is as bad as it is now because our nurses are underpaid and under lot of stress and strain because we have a shortage of nursing
Right.
personnel, very serious. And you remember during the COVID-19 thing how they were treating the nurses.
Yes.
Most of them, a good significant of them died. So all these things are connected, interconnected, and related to each other. These people don't do these things in isolation. It has direct connection with our living conditions. And that is why the Guyanese who are coming on this show and listening and making comments, they are the most independent, intelligent, and honest people here. There are a few who make silly comments, but by and large, all of them here, and they need to know, because I think we're coming to an end to our show.
Yes.
They, these our Guyanese who are listening here and making comments, they need to know how important they are as individual. They're not individual. You are individual, yes, in your own right, but you have the influence and power to actually transform our country. Never mind wherever you may be living, you have that influence, and you must use it as much as you can. I suggest that we have to make some kind of gesture of even a little protest in front of the British High Commission to let them know that we are not going to allow them to recolonize us.
I
They have
agree.
they have done it physically and mentally. So a lot of us are still mental slaves to the British colonial system, and we got to get that out of our head because we are not taught our history. Our history is not taught in our schools, our colleges, and our university. Isn't that a shame that we
So
have to do
true.
it on tech programs?
So true. Because the actions of the British now through the High Commissioner for the UK is to one lure, as you said, Guyanese away from here who are qualified. And there's a report that the first one was denied entry today. One of them, a Lindoner, he tried to enter the UK for 6 months and he was um, denied entry because they said he had only £400, which is not enough to sustain for 6 months.
Exactly.
Uh,
That's the point I've been making.
so,
I made that
so
point several times.
exactly. So it tells you that there's a certain category or class of people they want to enter the UK.
Exactly.
And you have to prove to them that you are able to sustain yourself. So if I'm going to see a relative, I don't have to spend my money, generally speaking. But they're saying, no, prove to us. So it's not a case whereby you are now free to just fly to the UK and walk into the country just like that. However, they're not doing that to the nurses. The nurses are
No,
being recruited.
exactly. Come
Doctors are being
here.
recruited. So your
Yeah,
skilled personnel don't have this issue. Your skilled personnel are being asked to come to work. If you want to go visit, they take you through the mill because they don't want you to be a burden to the system itself and to just wander into the system. So because this young man apparently is not a nurse, a doctor, or some medical professional, they don't see a need for him and they will give him the rigors. And I was told in the report he was treated so badly at the airport and so on, sent back and he has to find his money to get from Barbados to Guyana. That is a reality because what you don't, some of you don't recognize, and I hope you do, is that there is still, in the eyes of many Caucasian people, the view in the UK that you are not equal to them.
exactly.
Their history differs from ours, especially those of African descent, as we call. When you show up there, remember the picture has already been painted that you want to come. You long to be there. For what? Guyana has got so much wealth that if our two behemoths in terms of political parties are serious, no Guyanese will want to leave the shores of this country because
Correct.
there's more than enough wealth for all of us to be millionaires in this country. Every
Exactly.
household in Guyana can be deemed millionaire, even if it's just $1 million you have. Let's not forget that this said PP administration had said that they don't have enough money at that time to give every household $1 million. I think Clive Thomas made a suggestion. Well, since then, it has doubled and is almost going to be tripled shortly. And they still don't have enough money to give every household as little as $5,000. In Kuwait, it's reported that they receive, I think, about 7,000 US dollars per month per household. Kuwaitis don't work. They just employ people. I'm not saying that we should encourage that here.
But right
We should
there in
not have them.
Trinidad, right there in Trinidad, the Trinidadians pensioners get over 100,000, equivalent of over 100,000 Guyana
Every month.
dollars. The
Every month.
Trinidadians
What do our pensioners get here in
pensioners
our
get.
rich economy?
You can't even
28,000.
afford to give them $50,000.
Somebody
I
please
made
stand
that
for us.
point.
You're a
Huh?
pensioner, Brother Jenna. What do pensioners get in this country?
28,000 a month.
Is that not a disgrace?
Absolute
Let's
disgrace.
be serious here for a second, please. Is that not a shame on any political entity whatsoever in this country to give persons who've committed their lives in service to this country 28,140 US dollars per month? And right in Trinidad, and Jagger said Trinidad's economy is in trouble, they're running out of oil, which is true, they're having a problem. What do their pensioners get? The way you treat the elderly
The
has
Trinidadian
much to say
pensioners
about you.
so much money. You see, well, this is very important. Jagan once said that to judge a society, you have to judge it on the basis of how you treat your elders. Jagdeo has no respect for the
None.
elders of this country.
None.
And I don't have the time to discuss Ali because he has no powers, so I don't waste time talking about him. He just Jagier just have him running around like a little child, dancing and singing and making himself a fool. You understand? And I had to pull up a Muslim cleric today who was talking nonsense about having that Ali is the one that is the best president we ever had. So I told him, I said, listen, you must be very careful because Islam talks about evidence. You
Mhm.
don't say things because you want to say it. You have to have evidence of what you're saying. And in fact, you have to have more than one evidence in a
Mhm.
court of law, Islamic court of law. So you have you ever heard any Muslim cleric in this country criticizing what the administration is doing on the question of racism and
No,
discrimination? Have
no.
you ever heard any one of them criticizing the way in which our elderly people are treated? They have to stand up, even the little bit of money that you give them, they have to stand up in a line and wait early morning to receive that money. And you know why they have to go there early in the morning when the time is due? Because the little money that they gave them will run out. It's run out. It's a small
Exactly.
amount of money. You know, time doesn't allow us to go into this. I mean, need to have another program to discuss the rising cost of living,
We
and the
definitely would.
crisis and that is affecting the vast majority of ordinary people. It's very important that we discuss this and not only discuss it because our program we give answers and solution to the problem, which other
Correct.
people don't do. We don't criticize for the sake of it. We give an answer.
Exactly. So your friend Stephen King has commented again. I read it for you. He said, on the one hand, you criticize handouts, quote unquote, and on the other hand, every household should get, and he said, money. You can't sit on the fence, bro. And this may be my last response to Stephen because I guess he's seeking to have attention drawn to
To
himself.
get what? I don't understand what he's saying. He
So he's
contradicts
saying, so we're
contradict.
criticizing handouts because that's what they're doing. And he said, at the same time, I'm saying that you should get, or every household should receive a particular sum. First of all, Mr. King, and as I said, I would not deliberate too much in reference to time spent with you. Important to note is what I said. Every household deserves, based on what is called, I call an economic redemption fund. Guyanese have suffered excessively for years. Giving me $20,000 or $40,000 or $30,000 to my child for an entire year differs quite significantly from economic empowerment. Let's get
But
that clear.
what he doesn't understand, brother, is that what we are talking about is to set up a permanent system, a system,
Exactly.
not handouts. We have a
Exactly.
system
So
where, like how you are giving pensioners so much money per month, you raise their money to about double that amount,
so
because
what you do?
the basic
Quadruple.
minimum wage, pardon me, the
Quadruple, not
minimum
just double.
the minimum wage is $70,000. And when they take out tax and national insurance, you probably come back to 50,000.
No, but
And
the threshold has been raised to I think 75,000 somewhere. I can't remember exactly what it is.
right, yes, about that. But the pensions are getting 28,000, which is
Right.
less than
So,
30,000.
right.
So
So
how could
so
they live on
what
that?
the point, the focal point is this to Mr. King and others who may have that view. Whenever a community, especially those who are labeled, and I hate the label, a PPP stronghold, whenever they make noise, Jaguar vehicles finds its way in the area, and then like with in Region 6, the sugarcane workers, oh, we'll give you $250,000. The fisher folk, you'll have $150,000. Somebody else cries out, you'll have $20,000. That is what you call a handout mentality. Every so often, ministers are being photographed, giving somebody a little food hamper here and there. That is disrespect. What I'm speaking to is a system in place where Guyanese, based on the fact that we are so low on the economic scale, you have what is called economic empowerment, Mr. King, not handouts. There's a difference because you're raising the economic threshold of your citizens. What does that cause to happen? Number one, the economic scale or dynamics change. Person now have more disposable income. That's what you must understand here. This is not a handout society we're creating. You're creating a system where the pensioners, for example, don't have to be struggling as to what will they feed their grandchildren, or what will they eat, or how can they pay GPL, or how can they pay GWI. The pensioners in this country should be treated with greater care, and they should be at least equitable in reference to comparison, equity between them and those in Trinidad. Our pensioners, based on our population, deserve at least $100,000 per month. At least, at minimum. Don't forget that their money has been cut if they were working. The PAYE system, for 30 plus years of their lives, many of them have had to pay back taxes. We are being unjust and we're being unfair to these people. And you must take the time. I'm happy that Mr. Majid is trying to help Stephen King here. There's a difference. You must know the difference. Handouts is what you give to poor people. When they make noise, they'll take this and shut him up. But when you have deposits made that are intended to improve people's economic ability, you must have careful attention given as to how you treat it to people. Because if you want to empower a people, you can never keep them in poverty. That is the system we have. And that is why the UK and other places don't want Ghana to have Guyanese benefiting significantly. Because if we are empowered, nurses won't leave to go anywhere. So let me bring the point home for you if I can. If we are empowered, which nurse will leave here to go to the UK if they can receive what they paid in the UK? On average, who would leave? Or more? Which nurse would leave if they're told that they can purchase a car, for example, or a teacher can purchase a car, and they don't have to pay 1.5 and 3 times as much depending on the vehicle they want to drive? Well, they leave. If you're told that you can buy a car and the tax you pay or the duty you pay is 25%, that's it, or 15%, would you leave? Let's be fair and frank.
See, brother, the infrastructure, the social infrastructure, if you don't take care of public servants or people who are producing the wealth of the country, you 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 obviously they will go to greener pastures. It's a human thing. It's a human thing. They will go to greener pastures. It doesn't matter. The world the world is a big place, and people have the right to travel and to live wherever they want to. That's why so many Guyanese, more than that what I hear, are 2 times abroad, and they're not willing to come back because the pastures there for them are green. Why would they come to one here which they left? Why would they want to come back and bring their children here? You
Exactly.
know what I
Thank you.
mean?
Yeah, we have to spend. If you have morning hours available, I like to do it in these sessions in the morning too. So if you have a few mornings available,
I,
We
I,
can get.
I am available anytime you want me to come. I will leave what I have to do to talk because
Excellent.
we need to educate our people, and this is a school, and people are participating and they're educating themselves. This is
I
very
am so grateful, and we've had an intense hour. We slipped a little bit over, but I'm fine with that. But I would like to think that the impact we have in reference to exchange with our viewers is healthy, and the interaction, I should say, is healthy, and it really is encouraging. So we have quite a bit more to discuss because as we approach the election year and greater wealth coming to our country, you need to have voices that are eager to speak with passion and with truth, as what undergirds every word that we use on this broadcast. Jenna, thank you so much, my brother. It has been a fruitful evening, healthy night, and I thank you so much for being, even at your age, as they say, so interested in the affairs of this country. You stand out, and you certainly encourage me to continue doing what I'm doing. So thank you. And this announcement we will make shortly, because what I would like, or what we begin to do, is to interact with people. And I'll invite you to Linden as well, Brother Jenna. Join us at the Market Square. It all began. Remember when you saw me standing that time a few years ago with the placard speaking as an independent thinker? I hope that you can come to join us at the Market Square here in Linden, where we interact with people, go and see how they what they're going through, and share on a public platform our views, so the people's movement will move to the street.
You
I
just
know you accept the invitation.
invite me and I'll be there. I'll
Thank you
come up
so much.
with a bus. I'll walk
Thank
with
you.
my sleeping bag. Thank you very much.
Do well. Viewers, thank you all so much. I appreciate the time we spent here tonight. As always, Brother Jenna continues to be a voice that speaks so well and with such passion, unbiased, and certainly quite directed. Thank you so much for your time. Let us continue to be those who hold elected officials accountable, those who hold selected officials accountable. Let us continue to be the voice that speaks when many are silent. Do well, rest well, until we meet again. Bye bye.